Okay, so we're going to take another look at a construction video here. In this video I'm going to give you a twofer. We're going to take triangle ABC and we're going to first translate it along this vector here, and then after we translate it we'll get an image somewhere up in this area of the page, and we'll take that image and rotate it around that point. Let's say we'll go maybe 120 degrees this time. Okay. So what we're going to do first is we need to translate this triangle, which means we have to take this vector and construct it over here on vertex A or B or C. It doesn't matter which. It's closest to A, so that's probably the vertex I'll go for. Now you may remember, hopefully, that we're going to do this by constructing a parallelogram. All we're trying to do is take this vector and move it right up here. So that's going to be opposite sides congruent, opposite sides parallel. That's a parallelogram. To do it is really simple. You're going to start by measuring out the vector with your compass. I've got that length already. I'm going to take it over to A, and I'm just going to make an arc. So that tells me that A prime has to end up somewhere along that arc, because that's the distance it has to move in this general direction. To finish my parallelogram, I just have to make the other side congruent. Alright, so this makes sure that the top and the bottom of my parallelogram are congruent. Now I'm going to get the left and the right hand sides. So I'm going to measure from the bottom of my vector up to point A, and I'm going to take that distance and bring it up here to the tip of the vector and put a little X with the last mark I just made. So that point is going to guarantee two things: that the distance from there to point A is the same as the length of my vector, and that the distance from the tip of the vector to that intersection is the same as the distance from the bottom of the vector to A. In other words, I've just created a parallelogram. Now if you want to draw that parallelogram in, that's fine. You don't have to. I think for the purposes of this video I'll put it in dotted red just so that you can see what I'm talking about, although I don't generally do this when I'm doing the construction. Completely up to you. Okay. So there you can see that parallelogram right there, and of course that would be A prime. No trouble there. So now that we know where A prime is, we have to locate B prime and C prime. And again, since it's a construction, we're going to use known distances. A prime is going to be my landmark. I know where A prime is, so I'm going to use distances from the original triangle to locate points B and C. So one distance that I know for point B is that it has to be the same distance away from A as it was in the original triangle. So if I measure out the distance from A to B, that can't change after the translation. So if I take my compass and I transfer that distance up here to A prime, somewhere on that arc is going to have to be B prime. All right, I'm taking this distance, it's got to stay the same, and I'm transferring that up here. So what's the other distance I know about B? Well, B, just like A, had to move in that same direction along this vector, right? B has to go this far, whatever the length of this vector is, away from itself. So if the length of the vector, that guy right there, pushed A that far, it has to push B that far as well. So by placing my compass on B, I can make an X with that, and that's going to give me the location of B prime, right there. So now I have A prime, I have B prime. To get C prime, you have a choice. You could do exactly the same thing we just did. Take the length of the vector and bring it off as C, which is easy because my compass is already set up to that length, right? So I'm kind of partial to this method, and go right to C. And then I need one more distance. Well, you could use the distance from A to C, because you know where A prime is, or you could use the distance from B to C, because now you know where B prime is as well. It's completely up to you, whichever you feel more comfortable with. I'm going to go with BC, just looks a little bit nicer to me. So from B to C is that far, which means that's got to be the same distance from B prime to C prime. So now I've got A prime, B prime, and C prime. I'll go ahead and just draw that triangle in so we can see it nicely. Now again, visually you want to inspect this construction. Since it was a translation, which is an isometry, this triangle should look the same as this triangle. And you can see they look pretty close. This one looks a tiny bit squished to me, so maybe I move the compass a little, but that's okay. Sometimes that happens. They should be more or less the same. If they look radically different, that's a problem. So there's the first step of the construction done. I have translated this triangle along the vector. Now I want to take the second triangle, the image of the first, A prime, B prime, C prime, and I want to swing it around this point P by, I think I said 120 degrees. So first I'll need an angle to swing it. Now 120 degrees isn't quite 180, so if I kind of think about where this triangle is going to go, it's not quite going to make it all the way over here. It's going to be maybe up in this direction somewhere. So down here should be plenty of space. I can go ahead and create myself a 120 degree angle. So let's see. I'm going to put a little spot there to set my protractor up on. Now when you set the protractor up, remember you have to use those crosshairs, set it up to the 0, and count from 0. So I'm looking for 120, that's over here with the 60. I'm going to put my pen there to hold the spot, and then make that angle. Notice I'm making the angle with where my pen was and where I had the center of my protractor. So that is my 120 degree angle. Now I'm going to rotate the triangle around point P using that angle. I'm getting a little nervous about C. I hope it stays on the page. Let me just do a quick eyeball with C here. I might change the length of this rotation. Let's see. C is... yeah, C is going to be a little bit far. So you know what I think I'm going to do is in fact rotate this maybe a little bit further. Maybe I'll rotate it 100 and... let's change it up. Let's go 150. I think that should make me safe. So let's go 150 degrees on this rotation. Hopefully that'll work out. Alright, so the rotation is going to start just the same as it did last time. From point P, I'm going to go to some point in the triangle. B is pretty close to me, so I'm going to go there. And I don't know exactly where it's going to end up after the rotation, but I know it's going to be somewhere along that arc. Alright, so I'm just tracing out a circle from B prime. Somewhere along that arc has to be B double prime. Now I'm going to take that very same circle, do not change the compass, and I'm going to bring it over here to my angle, and I'm going to trace out that same arc. Alright. See how this line didn't quite make contact? That's okay. I'm just going to have to lengthen that. Sometimes that'll happen. So I just extended that line a tiny bit so I get an intersection there. So now I've got this arc and this arc. Remember, the line that's not here, which you can add if you like, is the line from PB, right? Or B prime in this case. So that line, that ray, is going to be the first part of my angle, this guy right over here. You can think about this as being, if this was P, and this was B prime, and I'm trying to find the angle that opens up 150 degrees to get me over here to B double prime. So to do that, I'm going to place my compass on B prime, open it up to B double prime, so I'm measuring out that distance, right? And I'm going to transfer that over here. So I'm going to go to B prime now, and I'm going to put an arc. And that's going to give me my angle, B prime, P, B double prime. That right there is my B double prime point. If you want to see the other side of that angle, we can draw it in, although again this is not necessary. Okay, so there's that 150 degree angle, and if you want you can always throw a protractor on it to make sure it looks reasonably good. You can see almost perfect, right on the money. Okay, so that's B prime. Now I need to find A prime, I need to find C prime. I'm still nervous about C prime. I'm not sure it's going to be on the page, but we'll see how it goes. So